Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is the second episode of the podcast, and I am here with my friend Miles. Let me just fix my shit real quick because I just realized I warped. Yeah, fuck it. I don't care about the layout. I don't even think you guys care about seeing us anyway. But I have a good friend Miles here, and just to give some context before we start with this, Miles has personality disorders, and let's just say that, this man had a tough experience with drug abuse, and it's not that he was an addict. That's not the claim that I'm making here. It's just one bad experience, I guess, with dangerous substances that fundamentally destroy your brain, can have a deep impact in your life. And he happened to have been sent to a psychiatric hospital after dealing with Molly. And we're here to just talk about life and the questions that he may have. So, Miles, why don't you just rephrase your question?
So my question was, if I grow complacent as I am now, will I be resigning my ability to change the things I don't like about myself and therefore settle as a miserable human being? That was my question.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
If I grow complacent as I am now. First of all, I think it's like
I'll copy it into the Discord.
so we don't forget. Okay. First of all, I think the main question that I would like to ask about this is can you really how much is it in a person to change? How much is change within their control? You know? Because I bet everybody has, something about their personality or whatever that they don't like, and therefore they really want to change it, but they stay the same. So let me just make a relatively offensive example of this, but like overweight people, right?
Yeah.
That have no excuse about diseases or just really shitty metabolisms. They really these people that really have a fundamental issue with being overweight that just don't change it. Why is it that they don't do it? And maybe this is a very specific example because you really have to not be lazy to make a change like that. But then again, like, effort is involved in pretty much any aspect of life, right? And anything you want to achieve or do requires some sort of effort. That's just like it's just what it means to change. So I would like to ask you first of all, what is it that you consider as complacent?
Complacent is, I will refer to that as growing stale, feeling no need to change in life. You're happy with what you have, or you're accepting and adequate of your situation that is your life right now, and you're comfortable. You see no
And therefore you
need
don't.
to change. And therefore you don't, exactly.
Okay, well, let me go open my window real quick, but oof.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, just sit down again.
Like it's like street sound, but I hope that the microphone doesn't pick it up. I don't think you resigned your ability to change. No.
But would you say that makes it more difficult? Because
Yeah, it obviously makes it more difficult. I mean, for many reasons. Like, let's pick a solid example of people that want to change. There's people, for example, that get stuck in a relationship, right? And they're comfortable in the relationship, because it's easy, right? This girl, I mean, she may give good sex, and you two might work very well as a team, and blah blah blah. But there's not you don't, and you love them, but you don't love them. You know what I mean? They don't give you that extra.
Yeah.
And some people, they stay in these relationships for fucking years. I mean, I knew a woman that was married for 10 years to a guy that didn't fulfill her very well. And she was afraid to make the move, and she was afraid to change because she was comfortable. And it wasn't until he actually got a divorce that she saw how necessary that was, And
Yeah.
And I find this really bizarre because there's a saying that says that if there's a will, there's a way, right? So I'm conflicted in
Mm.
the answer of this question because I would say that, yeah, if there's a will, there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way, and suddenly you're not complacent, uh, um,
Yeah.
and then you want to change, and you will change, right? But
Yeah.
I'm assuming the question is geared more towards those little things that you know you need to change, but you just won't.
Yeah. Oh, well, the way that the source of this question comes from, because as you know, Juan, I'm formally diagnosed with
Yes.
narcissistic personality disorder. And even though the diagnosis depends on the cultural upbringing, it still shows a conflict between myself and the rest of the culture that is Denmark. And obviously, I want to change because I do have some issues which will conflict with the people of this country, and they do. Um, Things such as love and empathy, remorse and shame are things that I struggle greatly with, and they are things that I wish to change about myself. And this has been an affliction that I have that has been growing and evolving over the past 4 or so years, getting gradually worse. And now is like the only real time that I've been aware that I have to change something about it. Now, I think that changing things such as your weight can be a little bit easier than changing something that
Fundamentally, yeah,
is in
okay.
your core.
Alright, so as you may know, because
Yeah.
I relate to that sentiment very well,
Mm.
I think you and I have
Yeah.
both have this fundamental issue with people. It's almost as if we are not
Mm.
made for dealing with people, right? We in my
Yeah.
case at least, and I think you've mentioned something similar, and it's that we just we carve at them, you know. Sort of we're the ocean, right? And you know, there's a mountain
Yeah.
at the shore. And you know how mountain or not mountains, but like say even fucking rocks, mountains, whatever. You know, if a wave hits that
Yeah.
specific spot enough times, you know, it starts eroding. It starts eroding and
Starts
erodes
to
and
erode,
erodes.
yeah.
At least the effect that I seem to have on the people that I've genuinely cared for in my life has been that I have eroded away their
Mm.
happiness. Little by little, they
Yeah.
come in and they're very cheerful and they're very. I've talked about this in like the first like beta episode of the podcast, but I'll say it again. It's that I erode people's happiness. They come to me and they come to me very happy, and then suddenly you know they grow miserable. They fucking grow miserable. If any person that has dated me for longer than a year has ended up very fucking miserable, and I don't know why, because like this is obviously something that
Mm.
I also want to change, because you know I don't want to make the people that I love unhappy. Like, what kind of fucked up like human being are you if you make if the way that you are simply makes somebody else unhappy? And I don't know what I just gave you my case. It just we're on the same page of what we mean by these like personality character traits. But what in your case, like
Yeah.
what has been your experience? Because my experience has been, you know, my past relationships have lasted for longer than a year, and also select few friendships that I've lost along the way.
Yeah.
You remember Chantal, right? Like Chantal, simply
Yeah.
she grew tired of caring for me because it didn't seem like I cared back. Um, and it's
Yeah.
happened time and time again with people that I've loved that they just simply go away because they just can't afford to care anymore. And I don't know, what is it the same
Mm.
with you? What is it that you have? Well, give me your rant.
It's, I would say it's a bit the opposite. The more, like, with prior relationships, I've been with my current girlfriend for 4 months, and I really like her. I don't know about love, but I don't really know much about my feelings. But over time, as I become more, I would also say, use the word complacent again. Like, I settle into a routine with a certain person, and I'm around them enough, and eventually, the lack of change makes me more and more miserable until that I start acting out and I start kind of going into a little bit of a passive backlash. And the person will grow tired of it and eventually break things off. which I always think is fair enough, but I also put the blame on me, but I struggle to fully care because at the end of the day, both of us are very charismatic people, and we can always go and replace them. I would say a lot of people are unfortunately, and a lot of people don't want to hear this, but most people are replaceable and
Yeah,
interchangeable,
of
right?
course. No, I agree with
Like
this
there's a lot of people
sentiment.
out there, and yeah. So there's no reason if in my case, if that person will make me miserable, eventually I'll just drive them away, mostly because of my own unhappiness, and then I'll eventually I'll then once it ends, I'll be unhappy about it and shit, and then I'll just say fuck it and continue my life as normal. Most things I don't really mourn because I am personally used to change and shit like that. So it's not really a big deal for me. And then I get a feeling of freedom, and then I get with a new girl, and then the
And
cycle
is
continues,
this
right?
problem that you
I
have with
usually,
you mentioned about people, is this more prominent
yeah,
through relationships, or do you experience a similar effect with friendships as well?
I think friendships are fine because I have no obligation with a friendship, or I feel no obligation. Like a lot of the friendships that I've been enduring have been, they've been picked up and then they've been dropped off, and so on and so forth, right? And a lot of the people that I knew from a couple of years ago that are still my very good friends, just like you, right? Like we've had times like I think it was like last year when we didn't really speak that much
Mm-hmm.
up until the summer, but then we just picked it up and continued as normal, and everything was fine. So in that way, we don't really have the luxury of being able to drive each other away because we can just, if it ever starts to get tiring, we can just drop it where we left
Yeah,
it and then pick it
yeah,
up later on,
like it,
right? But with a relationship, you're kind of obligated, and I want to say locked, but it isn't locked. You're
mm-hmm.
paired with another person in a certain way that has
Yeah,
unspoken rules and obligations, right? And in that way, you can't just drop it off and then pick it up because it isn't healthy for the
mm-hmm.
relationship or for the both of you, right? So you're in a way intermerged, interlocked, and just stuck
It's
with
funny that
each
you
other
say
in a
this
certain way,
because
right?
I personally don't think that there's many people in my social circles that I could get away
Hmm.
with just not speaking to them for a while. They would feel offended and
Yeah.
they would drop it off because they do feel kind of committed to our friendship, and they don't feel like
Yeah.
they have this commitment back. So it's kind of funny that you say that with friendships it's different, but
Hmm.
otherwise, make a point real quick. Your webcam you need to like lower a little because you're like covering your lips or whatever the hell. Yeah. um. With where was it going with this? Um. I feel like being aware of the fact
The
that
commitment to,
people are
yeah.
replaceable because okay, let's make a really out there sort of observation. It's not even out there because I think we all know this, but I'm gonna make the observation very raw and very um,
Yeah.
cynical, right?
Hmm.
People are tools, right? If your knife
Yeah.
loses its sharpen, you can resharpen a knife, but you can only resharpen a knife um, an infinite amount, no,
With
no,
another set of
a
tools.
finite amount of times. At some point, that knife is going to give, and it's simply not going to
Hmm.
cut like it used to, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and so I feel like this is the same way with people. You have a certain group of friends, right? And this guy is the funny guy, and this
Yeah.
guy is the guy that you can talk, emotionally with, and this is the guy that you party with, right? And then all of these people, they serve a
Hmm.
purpose in your life. It's a service that they're providing to you in exchange for a service back. Because let's face it, people are inherently very egotistical. They think about themselves only, and if they were getting no benefit out of a relationship, they wouldn't have it. And I mean, this is relationship as in like a boyfriend,
Hmm.
girlfriend, or friendship. If you didn't get fun out of being with me, and if you didn't get something out of it, then you probably wouldn't be with me. Period. And and this
Yeah.
is very cynical and very very mean to say because a lot of people, in my life especially, because I mean we're going to post this online, and I'm getting somebody will get annoyed by this, but it is true.
Yeah.
Your service only goes as far as you and I allow it to go, right? And at some point, we will change interests,
Yeah.
and we will be different people, and therefore we won't connect the same way, and we're gonna have to let each other go, right?
Mm.
This doesn't mean that the person doesn't matter. This doesn't mean that you didn't care for them, or this doesn't mean that you don't still care for them. It just means that their contract is due, you know, and
Yeah.
that is it. But being aware about this doesn't justify not trying, I think. I think being
Yeah.
aware of this mindset doesn't justify losing a friend deliberately, as you say that you would if it got monotonous and it made you unhappy. Because I always feel, I have the general feeling that you you should be able to fight, at least for the sake of nostalgia, to not make this person feel bad when this happens, or to make them understand that shit has run its course, but that doesn't mean you don't care for them. And I think the what sparked the discussion was change, because you're saying you want to change this, right? You're saying that you no longer want to
Yeah.
be this guy that lets relationships die off on purpose because he's tired of monotony, right? So
Mm.
there's two ways you can go about this, right? In my opinion.
Yeah.
You can try to adapt, or B, recognize that these people that you've met so far in your life, because you're pretty young, these people that you've met in your life just simply
Yeah, I'm
haven't, checked your quotas for your requirements of what a relationship should be. Right? So, I think it's very early to start asking this question, because you don't know if tomorrow you will meet a girl that changes a lot, for instance. That it's not the same person from one day to the other, or that doesn't removes that sort of stale factor from it. Or you don't know if you're going to meet another girl that, for example, is just like you and will inherently be sort of I guess how do I explain this? I'm trying to relate this back to me, but I just realized that it doesn't work because it's the exact opposite. But I guess in my case, like, I don't know if I'll meet a girl that fits my bill of, I don't need to talk to you every day and I don't need to see you every day. I just, that I love you, but, like, you're not going to hear from me for the next fucking week, and I hope you're okay with this kind of thing. And maybe I'll meet a girl that's okay with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you would even yourself benefit from a girl like that, because the lack of that would mean that you would never get into a routine, right? It would never become routine. You're not so committed to the other, or you're committed to the other to the point where you're loyal to each other and that you love each other and that you will be there for the other 100% of the time, but you are differently committed in the sense that the amount of time that you invest in the other person allows you to explore your own reality and your own hobbies in a way that makes your life yours. Because I feel like that's the big problem with relationships in general, is that at least all the relationships that I've had in my life have had this effect on me that makes me think that I'm at least giving away a big part of me, and I'm not getting sort of the same in return. It's almost as if no matter how much I love these girls, and how I cried for almost every night for months after Anna broke up with me, and right now I'm feeling like garbage in the most recent one, and but no matter how much that this is true, like, I still feel like I can claim that these relationships were making me unhappy, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But it's a paradox, because I go again, and the first thing that I think about is, okay, so when is going to be the next one? Or no, not the first thing I would think about, but it's like, you miss love, I guess. We all like feeling loved, and I miss giving care, or care in my own way, and therefore I want to have that again. I mourn for that. Maybe it's not like I want to jump from one relationship to the other. I'm not the kind of person to do that. But in a way, like I do really like feeling love and giving love, and therefore I guess you miss that. So
Hmm.
I think you should also consider the fact that you can change your relationship, because it's a thing of two,
Yeah.
and you have a say in it. So maybe
Yeah.
you would benefit a lot from not outright changing, but making these little sanity checks with your partners, where you talk, every month, and you see how it's going, and you can adjust little things so that you don't fall into a routine.
Yeah.
So, oh,
Also, I also feel like another problem is that just finding people, because like a lot of the shit that we're saying here is shit that people don't want to hear, and obviously it's very raw and a bit brutal, but it is true at
yeah,
the end of the day, right? Um, and I feel like a bit of an issue is finding people that will accept this as reality and have a broad enough horizon to be able to say, all right, the world is it's a bit shit, but you know what, we're gonna make it
mhm,
fucking work, right? Like for example, I don't tell my current girlfriend about shit about how I feel, because she just will just dismiss it and then just, you know, just be really shitty about it, right? And just be like, well, oh, because she just automatically she has the arrogance to assume that it has anything to
yeah,
do with her, right? And that sounds a bit rough, but a lot of things, it's a lot of this shit. It's just,
mhm,
it's a personal thing, right? And I think a lot of people are very arrogant. I think they always think it has something to do with them, right? When in the reality is that in a lot of relationships, it's not. I think a lot of people see it as one combined unit
mhm,
in a way. When that at the end of the day, a lot of people forget that it is still two individuals
yeah,
that have decided that they like each other enough that they want to spend time together, right? So I think a lot of maybe it's just youth and young relationships, right, that have this false notion about relationships, and that everything that they do has to be as a unit, and that people can't have their own individual lives,
mhm,
right? And I think that can be quite harmful, especially the people that are in a situation similar to ours, whether we have some interpersonal problems that another person can't fix, even if we want them to, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, just just
No,
kind
that's
of went
fine.
off
It makes
on a
sense.
bit of a
It ties
tangent
in.
there. Yeah, and I think a lot of I think a big issue with relationships is that it's one of the easiest ways to get satisfaction in yourself, because you're being validated on the highest
Yeah.
level by another person,
Wow.
right? So I think it's a really, really cheap way to feel good about yourself. And it doesn't solve the issue. If anything, I feel like it can just cause more interpersonal issues when that relationship starts to falter.
Wait, by interpersonal, I mean, okay, so let's say,
You know?
let me see if I understand what you're saying. So you're saying, okay, so let's say a person A
Yeah,
has an inherent problem with themselves, but and they
yeah,
perceive it as a problem, but then they fall into a relationship, and then suddenly this problem no longer exists because they're gaining validation, and so the problem is currently being ignored,
yeah,
and on top of that, you're developing feelings, you're evolving, and you're evolving in a direction that might not be good to solve the problem, and then once the relationship is over, you have having to get over this person on top of your original problem that has probably gotten worse if this person hasn't helped fix
yeah,
it. Um, and on
mm,
top of that, you know, you yeah, you're not validated anymore, basically. So it's like, fuck.
yeah,
What do I do? Uh, I
yeah,
I'm gonna go on
exactly.
a tangent
And
before you
just
say
like,
that. I actually do find it really stupid that people
yeah,
seem to like a lot of. I don't want to. I really like if any. I know I have a good relationship with most of the partners that I've had in my life. Um, except one.
Mm.
We both know which one. Uh, but I still
Yeah.
feel like a lot of them, and this is a problem that I have too, but a lot of them had like the mentality that
Yeah.
they come to my life thinking that they're gonna fix me. And I find that so stupid.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be about fixing someone, you know? If you want to commit yourself to a relationship, if you want to be with someone, then you're not coming here to fix them. I mean, why would you get there in a relationship with them if you thought they were broken? You know? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't buy a fucking a t-shirt with a hole unless it was designed like that. I wouldn't go to a store and buy a broken game. Because, you know, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because, you know, you just have to invest extra money and extra time into fixing this thing that you just bought. And it's the same thing with a relationship, right? Why not
Yeah.
find a partner that you're comfortable with from the start?
Yeah. Because I feel like a big issue is that people fall in love with what a person could be versus what they actually
Yeah.
are. And that poses big issues. Maybe not for the current time, but definitely for the long-term viability of the
Yeah.
relationship.
No, I completely agree. And it's that, like,
Yeah.
you know what, like, probably somebody older than us is tuning in and, like, thinking, oh my god, these kids have so much to learn. Because, I mean, I personally have hope that you're right and that it is only, like, the struggles that we have with current relationships are only a matter of youth relationships not knowing what to do, still not understanding the rules of the game,
Yeah.
right? But I think about it for 2 seconds, and I think of all of those relationships that, you know, either high school relationships, you know, the ideal world relationships that are like, you know, high school lovers or people that, you know, fall in love with the same and are together with the same person from, you know, because I'm 20 years old in 16 days, and like a lot of people start getting married at like 22, and like, do I really see my panorama changing to the point where my fundamental problem with relationships is fixed in 2 years? Like, I don't see that.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't see that, and that obviously brings me down, because it brings us back to the initial discussion, which is like, is there something wrong with us, and is there something we have to change? And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think you have to change? Yeah.
Do I think I have to change? I mean, yes, but I don't know if I want to change for another person as much as myself. That is also the narcissism speaking. But yeah, I definitely think that a lot of me will be free if I do change. But another issue I actually spoke to my psychologist about before getting released from the ward was, what if I'm scared of changing? Like, what is the next step? If I do change these things, what is the result? Right? And will I be less, what percent chance also, what is the, you know, just what is the chance that I'll be less happy than I am now, right? And that I'll regret it, you know? And obviously she couldn't answer that. She said, "Fuck, who the fuck knows? Just go for it, see what happens, right?" Fair enough, I'll get on that. So I think that a lot of change is also just, it's all shrouded in darkness, you know? And throwing yourself out into the unknown is a rough thing to do. It's not easy in any way. So I think that's also one of the things that makes it so difficult. And also, going back to the relationship thing, I think that relationships, when we get older, aren't as great as we think they are naturally. Also, I think that's also backed up by the fact that it's something like 50% of marriages end in divorce, right? Which is an insanely high percentile, right? That's just absolutely insane. So a lot of adult relationships are bound to be just as shit, if not more shit, than the ones that we have now, right? At least now we have the youthful optimism to be able to make it work for at least a little while longer and just like sap all the joy out of it before it gets shit, right? So I think it will remain problematic into the future, and especially when people get more mature and they aren't as willing as they are now to put up with people.
Well, let me
with
close
our
my
shit,
window. But yeah, I'm
essentially,
following. Keep going, keep going, keep
Yeah,
going.
I mean that was pretty much it. Yeah, the right was a bit misleading.
Nice.
No, no.
It was problematic.
Hold on. Shooting.
All right. So, that is a yeah. Cause okay, you're right. People, you should be afraid of changing. Because, but I mean, I'm not necessarily sure if how do I even
The reason might be
how do I even
that
explain
people
this? Cause
someone-
like. No, of
It's
course it's
not
not
an
an
easy
easy subject, but the fundamentals of this, right? Is that is the world of possibilities that opens up if you were to change. If you and I were to change, to fit within the compass of what people consider to be like a regular person-to-person relationship, right? Then we're opened up to a world of possibilities of constant like lifelong love, or we're opening ourselves to the possibilities of okay, let me preface this for the grown-ups. Like, I personally don't think that, and I've always known this, the person that I am today can be in a relationship for longer than a couple of years, because I guarantee you that I have enough. I've lost enough friends, and family has walked out on me, because of the fact that I am who I am, right? And you know, when a blood relative says that, okay, so that I can't afford to care, then that tells me that, like, why should this other person like afford to care? Why is somebody like completely external that could probably be 10 times happier with another person would afford to care, right? So we open our world to the possibility for eternal love, or whatever the fuck, and we open ourselves up for lifelong friendships, and we open ourselves up for a lot of these things, and I don't think you should be afraid to change because of them, because, you know, okay, so let's say that you've worked for so many years to adapt, and I'm sure that the only way for you to work towards, okay, I'll make this point later. I don't think you should be afraid to adapt, because once you've completed the change, or in the way that you're afraid to change. Once you've completed a change, you can just go back in the sense that, okay, let's just not have relationships, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I think the price to pay for people like us to change is really big, because we're not going to change without experience. You know, if you and I were to not be in a relationship for the next 10 years, we would not know what it is to be in a relationship. Or we would not get this extra input from having different partners to build our construct of a relationship further, and therefore we will kind of stay the same. So the price to pay for change is to get hurt. It's to try and try and try and try until you get the formula right. And I think that's what's scary. Because, like, what if you try and then you get to your fucking 40s and you can't even have kids anymore, and or your life is pretty much over when you reach a point. I'm not saying 40 if you're watching this and you're 40. I'm not saying 40 is that point. I know a lot of people that reinvent themselves in their 50s and 60s. But when it comes to love, it's when you get to those to the age past 50, it becomes hard to find something that isn't settling for less. You know, you've spent an entire lifetime
Yeah.
building expectations and having different partners, and some of them were probably fucking amazing. And you know, and they dumped me, a person like me and Miles, for not being enough. And you know what? Fair for them, and more power to them. But you know, we've spent all these years building expectations, and then suddenly we get there, and we're like, we die alone. And like, I think that's a very
Yeah.
scary thing. I think that's the part that's really scary to me, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the illusion of choice, the fact that you can say that you can convince yourself that you chose to be alone, will make it a little more bearable. But I think the fact that if you damn well know that it's because that you are just incompatible with the format of monogamy in the West is rough, and that's gonna fuck you up a little bit, you know?
And it's also like I have a fundamental problem with it because like okay, I also find it really hard to even attempt to make the change because of the fact that I have a fundamental problem with monogamy. You know, monogamy came out of okay.
Yeah.
So let's be cynical again, and in fact, okay, let's be cynical and also childish because this is something straight out of a 13-year-old's mouth. But like, relationships are essentially the way our instinct tell, or not relationships, but like love is essentially the human instinct telling you that okay, so you need to make babies, dude, because we're hardwired to expand. For some reason, we're really proud about our human race, and we want to fucking make, you know, thousands more of us. So we want to reproduce. It's just like engineered. We're fucking animals, and we're engineered to fucking reproduce. So love is just the elevated form of, you know what? Like you want to fuck this girl, and you want to make babies with this girl. So just fucking make babies, right? And so when you look at it that way, when you look at animals and shit like that, salvo those few very, very rare species that stay together for a lifetime out of a need for survival, we're the only species that sticks to or not the only species, as I said, you can name a few that stay together with lifetime, but we're the only, exactly, we're the only species with a conscious decision of staying together with one person. And I find that so fucked that we have been, you know, I think it's Christian values, actually, that have enforced this ideal that, you know, you have to marry, and that the person you marry, you stay with for the rest of your life. You know, it's like, it's a very biblical thing. It's a very straight out of the Bible kind of concept that dictates us humans to stay together for a lifetime. And I have a fundamental disagreement with this. I mean, I'm gonna take this. It's funny because we mentioned True Detective earlier, but I'm gonna mention True Detective again. There's one scene in this. Actually, there's two scenes now that I think about it, because he also says the same. Wow. Okay, I just took straight out of. I just realized that I just took it straight out of his book. The whole people become unhappy, but I really can identify with the thought. There's one scene in this series, we're going back to the point, where he goes to they're standing in front of a church event or whatever, and he asks the main character asks his partner, like, what do you think is the average IQ in this group, right? The other character of course gets very fucking offended, and he goes like, what the fuck do you know about these people? And he tells them, deduction and observation, you know, I see a tendency for obesity and poverty. And I see them all passing around this little basket where they put whatever little money they have into wishing that this magical creature or magical being straight out of a Harry Potter book almost, making them happy, you know? And it's like, I find it inherently wrong, and maybe this is really offensive to a lot of people, but I find it inherently wrong that we're abiding by the rules of a book that... a fairy tale. You know? I can't stand living in a society that needs to uphold to the wishes of a magical figure to make themselves feel happy. You know? Like, why should I do this?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And therefore, like, I have an unwillingness to change because you know what? I'm not gonna fucking allow Christian values to shape my character. But at the same time, it is fucking hard because I do want love, and I know that love is an easy, like a relationship, a long-term relationship is an easy way of of getting a constant surplus of love. So, you know, I don't have to feel jealous in a relationship because this person is committed to me. I don't have to feel jealous about you know, her being with other people, and I don't, and I have, you know, guaranteed sex, which will sound like super shit to all of you, but you know, humans run on money and sex. That's what human beings run on,
Yeah.
and you know, we need that. I need that. I kind of want that, and the only accessible way, and the only way that I'm allowed to access these the fulfillment of these needs is through following the norm. I have a fundamental problem with that. I don't actually, I don't know if you do, to be honest.
Uh, I mean, I don't. It doesn't really bother me. I mean, my opinion on the subject is indifference. I don't really mind it. I mean, I think that even though I think it is definitely critiquable, I do think that since we can't really change it, the best way to deal with it is just to adapt and just deal with it and just play by those rules. When we come into the world, wherever we are, there are a set of rules that we have to play by, and we just have to play by those rules.
And so that goes back to you. So then you just answered your
just
question
make
at
the
the start
best
of
of
the podcast, which is like, I mean, first of all, does it make it harder to change? Yes, we've accepted that it makes it harder to change, but you know you have to change it. So your fear of changing is irrelevant because, you know, fear doesn't care if you will adapt or not. Or no, fear is entirely depending on you adapting, so therefore adapt.
Yeah, but then again, that be saying, will that mean that I will become miserable? And is that because it is easier to be? I feel like careful planning can minimize the emotional stress that will be put on you. You know, depending on how you go about adapting. You know, I mean, if I just said fuck it, I'd just be like, all right, and just settled in, and just somehow just got super fucking depressed. Like went to the fucking doctor, came back with a fucking little certificate. Congratulations, you have clinical depression, right? I feel like that would be worst case scenario, where then instead of acknowledging it and then being able to compromise with the rules would leave me feeling more in control, because people do need to feel in control, right? Because otherwise that leads to stress, and long-term stress can put you at high risk for an illness like depression, right? So I think that depending on how you adapt, and it's a bit more nuanced than just adapting, because the consequences of just adapting may outweigh trying to have deeper insight to compromise with that set of rules that you have an issue with.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain
That makes
extent,
sense? Yeah. Wasn't the best explanation, but it was the best one I could come up with off the top of my head. Give it a shot.
Ultimately, I think it's just a matter of accepting that change is scary. But
yeah,
as scary as it is, I think there's no point in worrying about change. Ultimately.
Yeah.
Because okay, so you can live your life, right? And you can, because this is assuming that we're considering. We're saying basically with this, we're saying that relationships are absolutely necessary to have a fulfilling life, right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Essentially. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah.
And
No, you're
is
right.
that, first of all, the question is that really true?
I mean, I think through a very mainstream view, I would say that it is absolutely true. But if you look deeper in and you have other things, other sources of fulfillment in your life, I think that you can live a very good life, a very happy life, a very fulfilled and confident life without a relationship. But I think that without a relationship, you'll lack basic needs that every person wants, not just the sex part, but also just that constant stream of love and companionship that you do get from a stereotypical relationship.
Okay.
Because I mean, some people are more than happy, to go get up and they find great pride in their work, for example, and that's what they do, you know, with most of their time, maybe 80% of the time, even on weekends and shit, they do work related things. And some of these people have families in which they maybe don't see, and maybe they're obviously they might be fine with it. Obviously, maybe the family might not, but regardless, they still find satisfaction in their day-to-day life through work.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that you're still missing a piece of the puzzle, you know, by not having a relationship. Because because for example, yeah, because if you just do your work, you're still missing that piece of the puzzle. And if you have a family, in a way, you're not really, by being absent to a high degree, you're still not fulfilling their needs as such. Family time, spending time with the kid, perhaps spending time with the wife, and all that. And even if the wife has the same mentality, whether she also finds great satisfaction in her work, right, or the partner, whatever, significant other, then the child. So I think it's even if you do that and you have the best of both worlds, somebody's still going to be suffering because of that. Because to make all these things work, like also with change and shit like that, I think a lot of it has to do
Yeah.
with compromise. And specifically for us, since we're so young and we're still forming ourselves as people, I think it's important that we maintain our individualism. And I think that can be hard for us to do since we don't necessarily have the experience to be able to do that in a healthy way. Because we might feel that we're losing a significant bit of ourselves by changing and conform, and I
Mhm.
guess, yeah, conforming to a certain extent. And I think that one of the scary parts, not just from changing, is also from changing is losing your individualism and losing your sense of self. Because I don't know about you, but my sense of self is extremely unstable. Like, I could not tell you shit about myself. I couldn't describe myself as a human being. I could describe my hobbies and shit, like what I like to do, what I like to listen to music, and what I like to spend my free time on. But I couldn't explain the core of my being to you.
What
Obviously,
makes
that's a
you
hard thing to do,
tick?
but
You can't explain what makes you tick. You can't explain what makes you tick.
huh? Yeah, exactly. I do think that currently that is a very difficult thing to do, but I do think a lot of people will have more success than I personally would. And that's going from experience from being asked that question by mental health professionals and stuff like that, to the point where that it is an inherent problem warranting, or part of a problem that warrants the personality diagnosis.
Interesting. Because I mean, no, I don't have that. I think I have a very, very good idea of who I am.
Hmm.
I don't know who I want to be, but I know who I am, and I don't know where I'm going,
Yeah.
but um, the basic fundamentals of what makes me a human being and what makes me tick is all things that I'm pretty aware of. So I can't really
Yeah.
identify with that, in all honesty. But I think
Yeah.
my 2 cents on your situation would be just to view, not worry about it, you know, let it be.
Yeah.
Because this is my 2 cents. I
Yeah.
think that, first and foremost, and this goes out not only to him but to anybody that's listening to. I think first and foremost, your life is your little book, your little story, and it should be you 100% of the way, and it is you.
Mm.
So I think that because you are young and because we're young, I think we should, or at least what I'm going to do, now that I'm in the position that I'm in, so that I'm just going to focus on my hobbies, what makes me tick, and grow
Mm.
personally in terms of my own individuality. And a relationship will be second to
Yeah.
this, right? And now, what happens
Yeah.
when I make my relationship, or when I decide that our relationship is second to this, is that, um, I I I will find it if it finds me, and I'll carry it on, and I'll learn from it. And if the same shit happens again, fuck it, it sucks. But we're going back to the
Yeah.
initial idea, which is, the fact of the matter is that you're only going to get better at doing it by just doing it. And this doesn't mean, go from one
Yeah.
relationship to the next, go, keep learning from people. Like, no, this is not what this means, because, like, if you do that, then you might not be as engaged every time, and therefore, it goes back to good practice makes perfect instead of practice makes perfect. Because if you practice with girls that you don't care about or whatever, then it's kind of mute, right? But if people that you're really invested in, it really fucking
Yeah.
hurts you to lose them. After I lost Anna, like, I did a 180, and I treated Freya in a completely fucking different way than I would have treated anyone else. And I had like three relationships in between that, too. And we're not really relationships, but they were like open things, and I treated those people like shit. And it wasn't until it hit me that I couldn't do this with another person. And by shit, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm a horrible person. Please don't assume that I hit people or whatever. It's more like, I could genuinely understand when they said that they felt that there was times where they felt that I didn't care about them, because of my lack of attention to those little details that make a relationship fulfilling. When Freya came around, I thought that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna freely speak about this now, because I didn't want this to be public knowledge as of yet, but since it's 50 minutes in, I highly doubt anyone's listening. With
Yeah.
with Freya, like, I when she told me that she felt the same way, like, I couldn't believe it, because I thought I'd made enough of a change, and I hadn't. So
Mm.
my next relationship will just be a little bit better, and a little bit better every time, until I adapt, or I find somebody that fits my psyche, or you know what, like, I decide it gets to a point where, like, okay, this is not, like, you know what, like, the amount of times that I've hurt myself by trying and trying again is not worth it anymore, so I'll just focus on myself. And I think that's
Yeah.
what you should do. You should just focus on yourself, view your relationships as a secondary, or the need for a relationship as a secondary thing to you, and change
Yeah.
as you go along, do those sanity checks with your partner, and make sure that it doesn't become monotonous, and try your best, get involved into something.
Mm.
We were just talking about hobbies, and like learning how to play drums and whatnot that you have in mind, or that you would like to do. Why
Yeah.
don't you find something that you can do with them, I feel like that was a problem that I had with Freya a
Mm.
lot, was that, like, there was very little that I could do with her, we could talk and talk for hours, but
Yeah.
ultimately, like, our relationship was a lot more based on, a social
For sure.
scenario that I really wanted to be. I'm really sad to admit this, but I think that the best moments that I had with Freya, aside from, those like really peak moments when you're like cuddling in bed, and after sex or whatever, like, aside from those moments, I think my best moments with Freya involve other people. And I don't want it to be
Yeah.
like that. Where was I going with this? Where did I start?
When did you
Yeah.
start? Fucking hell. Yeah, I forgot what we started off, to be honest. I tried, I kept track and it all made sense, but now that you asked me what the baseline question
Okay.
was, I have no.
Well, hopefully it made sense too.
Yeah, it did. But I think that I think that a fundamental difference that we have is that I have a very difficult time connecting to people, and as the idea of, you know, um, of people as tools, combined with the fact that I have a struggle to connect to people like that, it really objectifies my partners, like my current partner and shit, you know. We had a really, really rough start off. Like, I was in a different relationship, and I was literally just with her, or dealt with her for sex. I found her annoying, and I couldn't be fucked to actually spend time with her. But she grew on me, but yeah, it was a very objectified relationship that wasn't really based anywhere in affection or love. It was very clear that she was very into me, like it was, but it was exclusively one-sided, right? And so I think that was maybe a year and a half ago, and a year and a half when you're only 18 can be a significant amount of change, obviously, right? But I think that it's definitely not enough
Yeah.
to change the issues, right? So, I mean, as much as it's gotten better now, um, I think that the base, she doesn't give me that thrill that my ex-girlfriend gave me, right? But the relationship with my ex-girlfriend was very intense. Like, it was very like quick to affection and all that, and it was very, very strong. And then had a lot of up and down periods, right? So it was very unstable from the both of us, because we both had issues that we saw, right? And our last from those issues was that we got to spend time with each other, right? And this one with my girlfriend right now is pretty much the issues on one side for me, right? And I think that poses an issue because this time, I mean, I forgot what I was going to talk about originally, so what's going on. But it was originally like, now the problem is like all me and shit, right? And obviously I want to avoid that, and you know, I want to make her happy, and you know, all of that good shit or whatever, right? But I think that the fact that I have such a hard time connecting to her and in a way humanizing her, you know, and not feeling anything but indifference is a big weak point in the relationship, which will eventually come back to bite me in the ass. So I think that's also like the change. If you relate it back to the change in the beginning, I think that is one of the things that I do want to change, but struggle to know how. Because you obviously can't just make feelings appear. You can't really make that shit go away either. But you know, after you suppress something for long enough, you know, it just stops coming, right? And I think that's a small part of play here, combined by the fact that maybe I'm not really that into it, you know. And I think the growing complacent thing, right, is just maybe in part my poor judgment for long-term relationship partners. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm also comfortable, so why the fuck would I change, you know? Like, I may not be happy, but I'm not miserable either, you know? So it's like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
I completely forgot my original point. I had something super fucking cool to say, and I just
maybe come back.
Forgot it. Yeah, maybe. I should probably start writing shit down, because I just forget shit too.
But I mean, that point that you made with poor judgment is probably, you hit it in the nail. You just answered your own dilemma. Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a combination of all of these different little factors that have been haunting you, and you've just been playing the game wrong. maybe you should just rethink the way that you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You just play it yourself,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
And now you're at a position where, like, even though you spoke very radically about feeling indifferent about your partner, you know, there's a reason why you haven't left her, and I assume that now that she's grown on you, that it's
Yeah.
not just sex. It's now you're in a bit of a peril, aren't you? Because you're suddenly now, oof, you're stuck in a corner, you know. Because
Yeah.
now you don't want to leave her, but at the same time, that you know that probably is the best way to go forth. So now you're going back to square one, because you're going to repeat the same shit over and over and again, because at some point you're just going to get tired, and you're going to let it die out, and the
Yeah.
cycle continues. And, you know, I would think that you should, give it a very, very, very thought-through, sensate conversation to yourself, deciding whether or not
Yeah.
this is healthy for you to continue.
Mm.
And B, I think you should, as I said, let it be.
Yeah. Because either way, you know, life has a way of sorting itself out, because there's literally nothing else it can do. It sorts itself out because there's no other option, right? So even if I do nothing, it will eventually fix itself, right? But I think one of the important things is to stay active with the meaning that you take the initiative to do the right thing. I don't think today's society is based so much on morals as it used to be, and holding moral superiority was an important thing to do. But nonetheless, you know, it still has its base in what it is to be a decent human, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. We're no longer dictated by, you know, the Christian values again, but we have now understood what it is.
Yeah.
Oh?
Am I even making sense?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow.
Am I even making
but,
sense? 'Cause I feel like yeah, it is that's the thing, it's a very abstract, because the way that I'm saying it now is coming out of an extreme niche. This is from a black person, or a biracial person, black enough to be considered black, right? With a personality disorder, with psychosis, you know, with, you know, been moving around a lot to see a bunch of different cultures, so I have a really fucking weird view on things. My view is not based in reality, because the way that I view reality with with the issues that I have, my reality view they tested it, right? And it's pretty much on par with some of like the most ill schizophrenics, so I'm pretty much just have a really fucking weird way of thinking about things. Plus, I can't really stay on track. I just kind of jump from one thing to the next, so sorry boys, excuse it. Try to follow along best.
Well, speaking of following along, I think it's an hour and 3 minutes now, so I think you and I should continue this conversation
That's a long time.
right now. But as for the podcast,
Yeah.
I think this is about as far as I can push it in terms of people's attention span and
Yeah,
all kinds of. I mean, I basically
It's
just
great.
did Netflix job for them if you stuck this long.
It's going to be great depressing background. And absolutely fantastic. Like, satisfied, put it on, sit on the sofa without it.
All right. Well, that is it for us. We were us, and the conclusion is that if you're in a similar situation to either of us, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, and I'm not gonna say this is the best of advices, but I'm gonna let it be, you know.
Just think it through, let it be, make a fucking decision, write it all down, pros and cons, and if you're not ready to make a decision,
Exactly.
fucking don't.
Mhm.
Wait till you're ready. And if you feel like you can't keep it going because you don't want to hurt your partner, just take the initiative, cut it off. You'll be alright. Life will sort itself out. It might not be the easiest thing, but it's definitely, you know, it might be the best thing. Give it a shot, see what happens.
Indeed. Well, this was Miles. This was your host, me. and I will see you guys tomorrow.